There exists in every soul a silent cry for sovereignty, a deep yearning to be seen not as an object to be used, but as a subject with value, dignity, and will. In the shadows of this world, however, there walk those who see others not as ends but as tools, whose sense of self is constructed upon the subjugation of others. These individuals, whom we call narcissists, are not merely inflated egos. They are fractured selves, driven by a relentless need to dominate, manipulate, and devour the attention of others to survive the abyss within. The phrase, "That's your opinion, not my reality," is more than a statement. It is a declaration of inner authority, a psychological boundary drawn with precision and calm strength. In the presence of a narcissist, where emotional enmeshment and identity confusion are tactics used to dominate and control, the ability to create separation between what is said and what is believed becomes the ultimate form of resistance. Narcissists operate not through physical domination, but through mental intrusion. They speak with certainty, they gaslight, they twist words and intentions, they invalidate feelings and rewrite events. In this psychological warfare, they count on one thing, that you will begin to question yourself. They count on your sensitivity, your empathy, your deep need for connection, and slowly they infiltrate your mind, turning your perception into something moldable. This is how the empath becomes ensnared. This is how someone with a strong sense of truth begins to weaken under constant manipulation. But when a person reaches that moment of inner clarity, when they no longer feel the need to argue or convince the narcissist of their intentions, they step into their own psychological territory and declare their independence from the narcissist's version of the world. This phrase signals that moment. It is not just verbal resistance, it is the soul reclaiming its own language. "That's your opinion, not my reality," draws a definitive line between what the narcissist wants you to believe and what you know to be true. It says, "You may speak, but your words no longer shape my self-perception." It says, "You may disapprove, but your disapproval no longer holds weight." It is a complete withdrawal of emotional currency from the relationship dynamic, and this, for a narcissist, is intolerable. Their power lies in the illusion of mutual reality. They want you to believe that their anger is your fault, that their cruelty is justified, that their perception is the ultimate truth. But this phrase disrupts the illusion. It says, "I see you, I hear what you're saying, but I do not accept it as the truth of who I am." The psychological separation this phrase creates is essential to healing and self-protection. It allows the individual to begin distinguishing between projection and truth. When you use this phrase, you are not seeking to change the narcissist. You are asserting that you will no longer be changed by them. You are making it clear that your sense of reality is no longer open for negotiation. In a world where narcissists thrive on ambiguity and doubt, this clarity is revolutionary. It invites the return of your intuition, the restoration of your inner compass, the end of internalized shame. Psychological separation is not abandonment of empathy. It is the reclamation of boundaries. It is the sacred act of saying, "Your voice is not my inner voice. Your judgment is not my law. Your belief about me does not shape my identity." This is the root of true freedom. Without this separation, there is no end to the cycle of manipulation. With it, there is space to breathe, to heal, to grow. It is the first act of liberation, and perhaps the most important. Not because it stops the narcissist from speaking, but because it stops you from believing them when dealing with a narcissist. The most dangerous trap is not their words themselves, but the emotional response they provoke in you. Narcissists are experts in the art of psychological baiting. They provoke, they distort, they insult, they guilt, trip, not because they seek resolution, but because they seek control. They want to trigger your defense mechanisms, pull you into arguments, make you doubt yourself so that in your emotional reactivity they gain the upper hand. Every reaction you give them, anger, sadness, explanation, even silence laced with confusion, feeds their illusion of power. But there is a way to step out of this invisible cage, and it comes not with resistance but with neutrality. The phrase, "That's your opinion, not my reality," is a master key because it bypasses the emotional minefield they lay at your feet. It is not spoken with rage, it is not part of a debate, it does not fuel the fire or attempt to extinguish it, it simply stands outside of it, refusing to be pulled into the game. This kind of response is unsettling to a narcissist because it offers nothing for them to work with. You are not affirming their authority, nor are you actively challenging it. You are detaching from it entirely. That detachment is where the power lies. When you respond with neutrality, you're not just controlling your words. You are demonstrating a deep mastery over your own emotional landscape. You are communicating without engaging. You are holding your ground without escalating. You are protecting your peace without needing to convince or convert. This is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. The narcissist, expecting their usual chain reaction, finds nothing to manipulate, nothing to escalate, nothing to twist. Your calm presence and lack of defensiveness confront them with a void they cannot fill, and for a person who survives on reaction and chaos, this is deeply unsettling. They are used to being able to control the emotional tone of every conversation. They rely on being able to predict your triggers, but the phrase severs that pattern. It is a closed door, and more than that, it is a mirror. It forces the narcissist to sit with their own discomfort, because your refusal to engage does not distract them with your energy. Instead, they are left with their own echo. This moment of disruption is powerful not only for you, but for the relationship dynamic as a whole. You stop feeding the loop, and in doing so, you begin to reclaim yourself. You're no longer caught in the trap of defending your intentions, justifying your actions, explaining your feelings to someone committed to misunderstanding you. You are no longer bound by their emotional weather. You become the calm in your own storm. It takes strength to stand in neutrality. It takes discipline to not react when everything inside you wants to scream, to clarify, to fight back. But this phrase is not about denial. It's about choosing where your energy goes. It's about saying, "I will not invest in distortion. I will not negotiate my reality. I will not spend another ounce of energy explaining myself to someone who's not listening." And this changes everything. It creates a new atmosphere, one where the narcissist can no longer play God, where their version of truth is no longer law, where the spell is broken and the manipulation loses its grip. Not because you fought harder, but because you stopped fighting altogether and stood in your truth without needing it to be approved. When a narcissist loses control over your perception, they begin to lose control over the entire dynamic they have worked so hard to construct. Their greatest fear is not being exposed through confrontation, but being rendered irrelevant by indifference. The phrase, "That's your opinion, not my reality," is powerful not because it wounds the narcissist, but because it tells them they no longer have the authority to shape your inner world. They rely entirely on their ability to project their distorted views onto others, hoping that you will internalize their version of you, and once that stops working, the foundation of their influence begins to crumble. Narcissists are not simply people with big egos. They are individuals whose sense of identity is fragile, inflated, and false. It is constructed through the eyes of others. They must constantly dominate the narrative because they cannot face the emptiness underneath. When you no longer mirror back their superiority or cower in response to their criticism, you take away the very oxygen they need to sustain that false self. Refusing their narrative does more than deny them control. It exposes the illusion they desperately hide behind. It leaves them with the truth they have been running from, They are not the center of your reality, and they never truly were. To a narcissist, your refusal to validate them is experienced as abandonment, rejection, and humiliation, even if you never raised your voice. Because what you have done, by standing firm in your truth, is shattered the fantasy they created, one where they are all knowing, always right, and deserving of unquestioned loyalty. This phrase works like psychological sunlight. It reveals what was hiding in shadow. And what the narcissist fears most is the moment when their control is met not with hostility, but with detachment, not with conflict, but with clarity. They cannot argue with calm resistance. They cannot overpower quiet certainty. This is where their tactics fall flat and their mask begins to slip. You are no longer trying to prove yourself, win approval, or explain your boundaries. You are no longer feeding their need for emotional chaos. You are simply not available to be controlled anymore. This terrifies them because it forces them to confront the truth that their power was always borrowed, always dependent on your participation. The moment you stop playing the game, their illusion of superiority disintegrates. And this is why the phrase carries so much weight. It signals not just a verbal stance, but a total shift in the energetic balance. You are stepping out of their psychological arena and declaring yourself untouchable by manipulation. You are saying, I am no longer interested in arguing over the truth, because the truth does not require your permission to exist. In that moment, they are faced with the thing they cannot manipulate, your inner clarity. And for a narcissist, this is not just frustrating, it is terrifying, because now they must either escalate in desperation or retreat in confusion. Either way, you have reclaimed your power. The illusion has been pierced. And the longer you hold to your truth, the clearer it becomes that their hold over you was never real. It was only ever sustained by your belief in their false authority. Now that the belief is gone, the grip is gone too. And the narcissist is left facing the one thing they cannot tolerate: powerlessness in the presence of someone who no longer fears them, because once you say it, not with fear, but with calm certainty, that's your opinion, not my reality, the spell breaks. And in that moment, you are no longer theirs, you are free.